These are the most successful managers in the world. However, each of them has one game that they just wanna forget. But in this video, we'll see these matches. The worst defeat suffered by each manager. Starting with this one.
Given away, Havertz is in, Kai Havertz, and Odegaard! Arsenal have an early goal, and it's the captain who scores!
This goal, scored by Odegaard, was the beginning of the greatest humiliation of Pep Guardiola. It was Arsenal against City on February 2nd, 2025, where Arsenal scored right in the second minute. But after Haaland scored, it seemed like that was gonna be a balanced match. Until...
Up for him, Partey shoots the flex, and then... Lewis Skelly took it in his stride well, and shoots! Nice goal, what a goal! Martinelli, Havertz, Kai Havertz! There's the goal! On for a fifth. Oh, there is! What a goal from Waneri!
By a crushing 5-1, Guardiola suffered the biggest defeat of his career. Never had he ever conceded 5 goals in a single match. And plot twist, the manager who did it was literally his former assistant. That's crazy. But Guardiola is not alone. Let's see other legendary coaches who suffered massive humiliations on the pitch. So let's go to a manager who rivaled Guardiola in England, Jurgen Klopp. With Liverpool, Klopp pulled off incredible Premier League campaigns, but it was in this very competition that he suffered his biggest defeat.
Away by Adrian, and here's Ollie Watkins! And straight away, been set away here by Jack Grealish. Watkins looking to take it all away, and he has! Magnificently!
In October 2020, in a behind closed doors match, Klopp's team faced Aston Villa. Liverpool was without Alisson, replaced by the keeper Adrian. But the game quickly turned into a disaster for Liverpool. Then Salah managed to pull one back, but before halftime, things got even worse.
Moving away from in front of Mings, and McGinn strikes it, and it's deflected in! And followed in, it's Ollie Watkins with a hat-trick!
4-1 at halftime, but it was far from over. Later, Barkley scored from outside the box, and Salah reduced the gap again. But Aston Villa was about to humiliate even further.
Here's Ollie Watkins. And it's Grealish, and it's deflected! Jack Grealish is looking for another, and it is 7!
By an incredible 7-2, Klopp suffered his biggest defeat as a manager, also being Liverpool's worst loss since 1954. That was insane. Moving on, let's go to him, Arsène Wenger, who managed Arsenal for more than 20 years. But after 1,500 career matches, there's one he'll never forget.
This will be today a great game, but Arsenal will make it difficult. Arsène Wenger has much to think about.
On August 28, 2011, Arsenal faced Man United, but the London side was missing some of its key players, so Man United wasted no time.
Scooped in for Welbeck. Who scores? From Ashley Young. And Young's gone for goal! Wonderful! Rooney, Young, Rooney, 3!
The game went into halftime at 3-0. Then Arsenal managed to pull one back, but Man United didn't stop.
The back close. It's Rooney! He's done it again! Rooney, Manny! Wow! Ji-sung Park! 6! Hasn't taken him long to catch the moon!
At this point, it was already an absolute thrashing. Van Persie managed to score again, but just when it seemed Man United had scored enough,
Rooney, hat-trick, he set it back for Young, and Young has scored wonderfully again. Boy, the man is brilliant. They are brilliant.
Arsène Wenger's team conceded 8 goals in a single match. By far, the most humiliating defeat of his career, and Arsenal's worst loss since 1927. That's definitely a game he'll never forget. But believe it or not, in that same season and in that same stadium, Alex Ferguson, the biggest Premier League winner with 13 titles, also suffered the worst defeat of his career.
A warm welcome to Old Trafford for the 161st Manchester Derby.
Just months after thrashing Arsenal, in October 2011, they faced their rivals Man City. It should be a balanced game, but early in the first half,
Balotelli! The t-shirt says it all!
1-0 to City, but it seemed like Man United would equalize, until in the beginning of the second half, the defender John Evans was sent off. On top of that, Ferguson tried to keep the team offensive, who left the defense completely open.
And Milner, Balotelli! From City, it's Richards, it's 3, Sergio Aguero.
Then United pulled one back, but in stoppage time,
That was Barry, and Lescott, and it's Silva, and it's 5. Just United supporters here. Here's Dzeko. Couldn't be 6, could it? It could, you know.
at Old Trafford, Ferguson's team was thrashed 6-1. No wonder he considered it the worst day of his career. That was crazy. Now another manager who competed with Alex Ferguson in England was the so-called the special one, Mourinho. But even with a legendary career, he suffered his biggest defeat against a team that most people don't even recognize.
Solbakken interviene tocando ahora de primeras, cuidado Monge. Quiere dar de primeras la pared, la tiene Berg en el balcón del área. ¡Golazo!
Back in October 2021, when Mourinho was managing Roma, they went into a Conference League group stage match, and the opponent, Bodo Glimt, from Norway, who quickly started surprising them with 2 goals. But soon after, Roma pulled one back. Also, the market value of Bodo Glimt's team was 25 times smaller than Roma's. But when the second half came, the Norwegians shocked everyone.
El balón espera filtrando ahora para Samsted, línea de fondo, el balón atrás, el remate. ¡Gol, gol, gol, gol! Y jugando con espacios, Solbakken, uy, qué error ahora por parte de Kumbula, puede marcar Solbakken. ¡Gol, gol, gol, gol! Cuidado, ahora lo comentamos, Pellegrino puede marcar. ¡Gol, gol, 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 gol! Cuidado Solbakken entre líneas, el pase de Pellegrino, Solbakken.
Roma underestimated them, didn't go into the game with the intensity they should have, and Mourinho's tactics were a complete disaster, resulting in his biggest defeat as a manager. 6-1, a match they will never forget. But in the end, they turned it around, winning the Conference League's title. Now after Mourinho, let's move on to another manager who already made a name for himself, Xabi Alonso. With Bayer Leverkusen, he won the Bundesliga without losing a single match, something that not even Bayern Munich had done. But in October 2022, it didn't seem like he was gonna be so good.
Daichi Kamada with real authority bludgeons the ball home.
He took over the club on October 5th, 2022. Then 10 days later, on the 15th, he went to a Bundesliga match against Eintracht Frankfurt, who scored the opener from a penalty. But then, after the equalizer came, Leverkusen's defense literally turned into chaos.
On to Christopher Lentz. Lentz crosses! They've been there! Lindstrom's breakaway. Lindstrom still went for the chip finish. Absolutely out of this world! Nkapie comes across. Ichi Kamada, 4-1 lead. Exactly what they have. Götze's pass. Rafael Barre. Alario!
In his first days at Bayer Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso suffered a 5-1 defeat, his biggest thrashing as a manager to date. But before we move on to managers like Ancelotti, Simeone and Zidane, there was another manager that was humiliated by Frankfurt, Thomas Tuchel. As the Bayern Munich's manager in December 2023, he faced Frankfurt in a match where Bayern was the favorite. But when the ball started rolling,
Mazraoui not very far, and the shot driven in off the crossbar from Xabi, and then in on the rebound, still going. Oh, and it's squeezed in! Schlarsen. Hugo Larsson!
3-0, a true shock for Bayern. Then Kimmich pulled one back, but Frankfurt didn't stop.
Got support arriving. Dina Abimbe! Oh, that's neatly done. Oh! It's another one!
Bayern was defeated by 5-1, a true tragedy for Thomas Tuchel. But that actually wasn't his first thrashing. In 2015, while managing Borussia Dortmund, he suffered 5-1 to Bayern Munich, and in 2019 with PSG, he was thrashed by Lille. Now the next manager is a guy that actually won 3 Champions League titles in a row, Zinedine Zidane. Zidane became a legendary manager, but there was a day that people doubted his abilities. In his very last season for Real Madrid, behind closed doors in November 2020, they faced Valencia. It seemed like just another ordinary game, so much so that Benzema scored the first goal, but it quickly turned into a disaster.
Now a penalty is appealed for, and this time he squeezes it in. Gomez, ball into the middle and nearly an own goal, and it still might be. And it crossed the line. It's another penalty. Carlos Soler scores a penalty for Valencia, and he puts it
4-1, being, believe it or not, the worst defeat Zidane faced in his entire career. only a 3-goal difference. That actually shows how good he is. Now speaking of managers who made history in Spain, let's go to him, Diego Simeone. He's literally the highest paid coach in the world. But there were moments people doubted his managing skills. The most recent one was in October 2024, when they faced Benfica in the Champions League. But it was a match Atletico got completely lost.
Slipping it into a little bit of space for Kerem Aktürkoğlu, brilliantly taken. Angel Di Maria step up from the spots and to double. Here comes the corner. It's Alexander Bar, it's 3-0. This one's going to be taken by Erkan Kutsu. Same result, 4-0 they lead now.
Everything just worked for Benfica, so Simeone was thrashed 4-0. However, that wasn't his only 4-0. In 2018 he lost to Borussia Dortmund, and in 2020 he lost to Bayern Munich also by 4-0. The 3 worst defeats of his career. But before we move on to the only manager in history to win 5 Champions League titles, let's go to a World Cup winning coach, Joachim Löw. He managed Germany's national team for literally 15 years, winning of course the World Cup. But in November 2020, in his last months as Germany's manager, Joachim suffered his worst defeat ever.
Germany need 1 point to go through to the final stage of the Nations League.
Germany was leading their group in that Nations League, so they were playing for just a draw. On top of that, they had been unbeaten for a year. But surprisingly, Spain turned that into Germany's biggest humiliation.
He certainly did that. Corner is over towards Morata again. Flicked header. Bounces off the bar for Torres. And Rodri's header makes it 3.
Germany's squad was packed with great players, but they were completely lost on the field, so Spain didn't stop.
Is with him and decides to use them, and it should be 4, and it is. Fabian Ruiz, look at the space for Torres here, who wants a hat-trick and gets one.
Gaya. What a chance! It is 6! Would you believe it?
6-0. The worst defeat of Löw's career and Germany's biggest defeat since 1931. To give an idea, the last time Germany had lost 6-0, Queen Elizabeth was just 5 years old. That's crazy. So now we've finally come to him, the manager who won, not 1, not 2, but 5 Champions League titles, Carlo Ancelotti. By the time you watch this video, that number might already be outdated. So one of Ancelotti's biggest defeats was when Madrid was thrashed 4-0 in the semi-final of the Champions League. But that actually wasn't his worst defeat. Man City had already humiliated him even more. Back in May 2021, Ancelotti was the manager of now Real Madrid, but Everton. Then in the last round of the Premier League, he faced Man City. That already was the Premier League winner and going for the last match of the season at home. So with their momentum, Man City started with everything they had.
De Bruyne lines it up, De Bruyne scores! Jesus is a real number 9, and that's what number 9s do.
But it wasn't just the attackers who stood out. Ederson also saved the penalty. So wanting to put on a show for their fans, City continued.
Manchester City sparkling here. Here goes Aguero. Oh, he's done it! Oh, it's Sergio Aguero with a header! He hasn't finished yet!
In Ancelotti's last match for Everton, he suffered his biggest defeat as a manager, 5-0. But oddly enough, just days later, he was announced as the new Real Madrid manager. Some people thought it was a crazy decision, but it ended up working out very well. So what do you think of this video? If you enjoyed it, I think you're gonna like this one too. So thank you and bye!